It is Christmas Eve, and the one present that we all get to open early is a highly anticipated matchup between the Philadelphia Eagles and the Dallas Cowboys. Who's in? Who's out? What is Vegas saying in regards to the betting lines? And who should Eagles fans be cheering for outside of this game? All that and more on today's edition of the Locked On Eagles podcast.
You are Locked On Eagles, your daily Philadelphia Eagles podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
This podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp. It's not a crisis line. It's not self-help. It's professional therapy done securely online, available to people worldwide. And they have a special offer for my listeners. Get 10% off your first month at BetterHelp.com/lockdown. Welcome on in, everybody, to yet another edition of the Locked On Eagles podcast. Your first listen each and every day. I'm your host, Gino Camilleri. As always, you could find us wherever you get your podcast. If you like it the old-fashioned way, check us out at Spotify, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Odyssey. You know where to get us by now. Check out Amazon Music, Apple as well, and a whole lots of other places where you get your podcast. And if you like us in video form, keep checking us out at YouTube. Make sure whatever way you are listening or watching, you are liking, subscribing, interacting with us, tweet with us, talk with us. You can catch me on Twitter at GC24_football. Catch my co-host at DiBiase. Check out the mothership at Locked On Birds, and check out all of the Locked On NFL and any other Locked On Podcast Network shows you're talking about and we are talking about here at the Locked On Eagles podcast. The highly anticipated matchup on Christmas Eve between the Philadelphia Eagles and Dallas Cowboys. The only 225 game, national TV audience, on Fox, America's game of the week. Frankly, it's America's game of the season. This is going to be the most highly viewed game all year. Everybody has been waiting for it. Even without Jalen Hurts at quarterback for the Philadelphia Eagles, it is still two teams that have a storied history and are playing at a level which we haven't seen in the past couple of years. This division as a whole is playing at a level that we haven't seen in the past couple of years. The Philadelphia Eagles are sitting at 13 wins. The Dallas Cowboys are at 10 wins. Both of these teams are fighting for a chance to go to the playoffs, contend for a Super Bowl, and both teams have seeding on the line. Some crazy things would have to happen for the Eagles not to get to 1 and Dallas not to get to 5. But this isn't going to be in the back of the minds of Eagles players or Cowboys players. It's a heated rivalry. Both teams are going to be ready to come out and play. And everybody is going to be excited to watch when they have their family around. They're celebrating the holiday. You're going to be able to turn on the TV and see the Eagles versus the Cowboys. We have some news in regards to some injuries. We know that the big one, Jalen Hurts, will be out for the Eagles. Gardner Minshew will be taking the helm at quarterback for the Birds. He should be fine. The offensive line will protect him. He's got his playmakers. And one big name that is coming back healthy that I would say Gardner Minshew should be very pleased will be there in the middle of the field for him, Dallas Goedert. Of course, Dallas has to come back for the Dallas matchup. It is the only Dallas that we root for here at LOE. Dallas Goedert has been out for, I think it's 5 weeks now. He was out 4 weeks with that IR stint, didn't come back healthy last week after being activated in that 21-day practice window. Now we're going to see Dallas Goedert back. We're going to see A.J. Brown. We're going to see DeVonta Smith. You have Miles Sanders back there. Gardner Minshew just has to dish. He just has to be a point guard. He has to go out there and distribute the ball to the guys that are going to win one-on-one battles, that are going to get schemed open, that are going to take this team to a chance to get the 1 seed. Because if everything goes right and the Philadelphia Eagles can win this game, they're going to come out with the 1 seed. How great would that be on Christmas Eve to do that in front of a national audience with a nearly fully healthy team? Because on top of Dallas Goedert, You also get Reed Blankenship back. Kevon Wallace, who was listed with a hip injury, went full go on Thursday. Tyree Jackson is looking like the only other player that will be out. He has a knee injury. And Zach Pascal is questionable with a concussion. So Gardner Minshew, the world is yours, my friend. Take this thing at the helm, grab the bull by the horns, take the F1 car in this spot. And let me explain how Formula One works for our listeners. I've made this analogy plenty of times that Jalen Hurts is the driver for a well-tuned Formula One car. Well, in Formula One, they have what is known as a reserve driver, somebody that has to step in just in case the top guy can't go. Well, that's what Gardner Minshew is. He still has a very finely tuned car. The offensive line is healthy. The playmakers are there. All he has to do is keep this thing off the wall. Keep the game in check. Don't turn the ball over. Take some chances. We know he's going to. He's Gardner Minshew. He played Mike Leach style offense his whole career. Air raid, go gun that ball down the field. We're going to see it. But let Miles Sanders do what he has to do. Let Shane Steichen and Nick Sirianni put this team in a position to win when it comes to the offense. Because when it comes to the defense, we know exactly what should happen. And that defense should know exactly what rests on their shoulders. That a chance at the 1 seed, a chance to beat your division rival, a chance to win the NFC East, runs through this defense. It runs through that defensive line. It runs through the linebackers. It runs through the corners who are going to have to step up in a huge way. It's going to run through a little injured group at the safety unit. They're a little banged up. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson isn't there. But Marcus Epps has led the way. Reed Blankenship should come back and do excellent. Kevon Wallace has found a role. That front four, that secondary, that group of linebackers is enough to not just win this game, but to keep you in many games against any opponent in the National Football League, frankly. They're performing at a rate and a level that we haven't seen. We haven't seen this defense have 4 guys that could get double-digit sacks. We haven't seen the numbers and the shutdown numbers, frankly, from 2 corners outside of Sheldon Brown and Khalito Shepard and Troy Vincent, Bobby Taylor, those days. It's been 20 years since we've seen something like that. The linebackers, it's been even longer probably. But now you have a chance on the back of this defense with Gardner Minshew, your reserve driver, who is stepping in and can keep this thing out of the wall, keep this car going. Man, that would be great because not only would it help out your team to get the 1 seed, play at home all throughout the playoffs, but it now gives you the optionality with Jalen Hurts when he comes back healthy. How long do we want to sit him? Do we want to get him some game action against the Saints for a couple series? Do we want to see him get some game action against the Giants? Because if you lose this game, that all goes out the window. Jalen Hurts probably is going to have to come back sooner than you would want to. More than likely, he should rest for the playoffs. But you have to get that 1. You have to get the 1 seed. Everything else doesn't matter. You can't take one game for granted and say, oh, we'll get him next week. No, you have to do everything in your power. Empty the kitchen sink in this game. Next week shouldn't even matter. That game should not matter in the back of your minds. The front of your mind, the only thing on your mind is the Dallas Cowboys. Finding a way to beat the Dallas Cowboys, no matter what it takes. And we have enough leadership on this team, and we've seen the proven leadership on both sides of the ball, to know that in moments where there is adversity, where maybe things aren't going 100% correct, and without Jalen Hurts, it probably won't go 100% correct, and we know that even when he's in there, things don't always go exactly how you would plan. But there are enough leaders who have stepped up in big moments, kept this train on the track, kept the car off the wall to keep them in a position to where they have won 13 out of 14 games. With 3 games remaining, they have a chance to clinch the 1 seed with 2 games remaining. How great would that be? How awesome of a Christmas present would that be? I would be very pleased. We could return all the ones that cost money. That one would be the best. And you know what else is the best? The Locked On Eagles podcast. And we thank you for making it your first listen each and every day. We are going to finish up this week with 2 more segments talking about the Birds. Next segment, we will be talking about what should be your rooting interest outside of this Eagles game. We're going to get a full slate of Saturday football. Now that college football is done, we get NFL action Saturday, Sunday. We'll get some Monday as well. It has been a full week, and the biggest game is the Eagles and Cowboys. But before we talk about that, we have a message from our friends over at Turo. Turo is the world's largest car sharing marketplace. With Turo, you can book any car you want, wherever you want, from a community of local hosts. Browse a huge selection of vehicles for just about any occasion or budget across the United States, UK, Canada, and Australia. Book a spacious SUV or a minivan for a family road trip. Get a classic or luxury car for a special event, birthday, or holiday. It is the holiday season. Turo would be a perfect way to find an affordable economy car in your budget from getting to A to B. Test drive that new electric vehicle that you had your eye on for a while. Many Turo hosts can even deliver the car right to you. Every trip is backed by liability insurance. Terms and conditions and exclusions apply. Forget boring rental cars and find your drive over at Turo.com. And while you are driving in your Turo, remember this message from our friends over at the National Highway Traffic and Safety Association. Did you know that driving high is considered driving under the influence? That's right. Driving under the influence of marijuana is against the law in every state, even in states where marijuana is legal. That means that driving high could get you a DUI. And if you think law enforcement officers can't tell when you're driving high, you're wrong. Your friends can tell, your coworkers can tell, even your parents can tell. Everyone can tell. So what makes you think that law enforcement officers don't know when you're driving high? Driving under the influence of marijuana can slow your response time and change how you perceive time and speed. So even if you think you are fine to drive when you are high, you are not, because the bottom line is if you feel different, you drive different. And driving high is driving under the influence. So remember, drive high, get a DUI, paid for by the National Highway and Traffic Safety Association. All right, everybody, welcome back to this Christmas Eve edition of the Locked On Eagles podcast. I hope everybody is feeling festive. They are around their loved ones, enjoying whatever holiday you celebrate. And if you are enjoying Locked On Eagles for your first time, second time, 10th time, 100th time, even 1,000th time, thank you for choosing us as your first listen each and every day. And for your second listen, make the Locked On Sports Today podcast your second choice after you listen to us, of course, because in 20 minutes or less, they will break down all the biggest sports around the world, plus instant reactions, game recaps, and Locked On's Take of the Day. Locked On Sports Today, available on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. Wherever you're checking us out, you know the Locked On Eagles podcast as well. Check us out on Twitter at GC24_football, at DBOCLOE, at Locked On Birds. And you're always tuned into us here because you want to focus on the best team in the best sport, in the best division, in the best conference, in the best league in the world, National Football League, where the Philadelphia Eagles are taking on the Dallas Cowboys, quote unquote, America's team. But I can tell you this, I guarantee folks that are going to be watching this game tomorrow who have a neutral rooting interest probably will not be rooting for that team that has a star on their helmet. We know the Eagles are really America's team, the place where this country was founded, the best city in America, in the world, frankly. The Philadelphia Eagles take on the Cowboys in front of a national audience, America's game of the week. But before that, there'll be some games that we should have a rooting interest in, because we know that the Eagles have a chance to clinch the 1 seed. And how can they do that? Well, they can win this game, keep it in their control, win 1 out of the next 3 if they happen to lose this one. But if not, if things go totally awry, there is some upside to teams losing things that are outside of their control. So tomorrow morning, when you turn your TV on around 1 o'clock Eastern, you will be able to watch the Minnesota Vikings host the Philadelphia Eagles division rival, New York Giants. And guess what? You're probably going to have to root for 2 NFC East teams to win tomorrow while you are watching games that aren't the Eagles and the Cowboys. The Vikings are hosting the Giants at 1 o'clock Eastern, 11 o'clock Mountain Time. I have to get used to that. Continue to get used to it. It is great, folks. If you have never watched sports in Mountain Time, highly suggest you get out here because The next slate of games kicks off at 2 for me. But for you on the East Coast, kicks off at 4. Anybody on the West Coast, 1 p.m. It won't make you feel left out. But that next game you should keep your eye on. The 49ers are hosting. This is that second NFC East team you have to root for. The Washington Commanders. So if Washington could beat the 49ers, if the Giants could beat Minnesota, and Dallas happens to beat the Eagles, Dallas would then have to lose one of their last 2 games. Control what you could control, though, and that is winning this game. That is beating the Dallas Cowboys. They have everything at their disposal to do that. Make sure you keep your eye locked on those other games, but ultimately it comes down to what the Eagles can do. And with Vegas saying that the spread has come back a little bit, with the Eagles being fully healthy, outside of Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, Jalen Hurts, and Tyree Jackson, everybody on that team knows what is at stake. They know that everybody's watching. There's one other 2 p.m. game, or 4 o'clock game, excuse me, and that kicks off 20 minutes before the Eagles and Cowboys kick off. It is a national audience, America's game of the week. Everybody is going to be tuning into this one. You could expect over 50 million viewers, I would say. Don't let the limelight kick you in the face. Know what is coming. Because in a couple weeks, this could be a rematch with Jalen Hurts versus Dak Prescott. Could be another national televised game. It will be. Whoever they play in the playoffs, it's going to be a much bigger audience than this game. But if they have to do it again, why not implant another game plan, win another game, and just show that you are the better team overall? Because at the end of the day, it isn't a one-man sport. It isn't basketball. It isn't tennis. It isn't golf. One man can't change the tides that drastically, especially if they're a true system quarterback, as one would say. But in football, it's any given Sunday or Saturday for that matter. Anybody could come out there and win any game on any day. And we know that. We have watched this team for plenty of years. We know the Eagles have been in spots where they shouldn't be in games. And guess what? They upset that team. Everybody could think back to that 2015 New England Patriots game where they blew that team out of the water and nobody gave them a chance. And then there have been games like this year against Washington where everybody was saying the Eagles are going to pull this one out. Nobody's giving Washington a fighter's chance. And guess what? They laid an egg. Well, in this one, both fighters, they're going to be throwing blows. Whoever can be toughest the longest, that's what it's going to come down to. This is the cliche game, in my opinion. Throw out the record book. It's NFC East football. It's going to come down to the trenches. Every cliche you want to throw at this game, it is true. That's what it's going to come down to. But the one thing that they cannot control outside of their opponent is how Vegas views them. And in our last segment, to take you into Christmas Eve, to take you into the holiday weekend, to take you into this matchup, we are going to look at the lines from BetOnline and see what Vegas is saying about this game. But before we talk about our friends over at BetOnline, we have a message from our friends over at BetOnline. What do you know? BetOnline is the #1 source for sports betting info, stats, news, and analysis. Get the latest odds, trends for every sport, amateur league that is out there. Pro football, college bowl season, basketball. World Cup just ended, so club football is coming back. Yes, I said football. Club soccer for those here in the States. Go to betonline.net. They have everything that you could imagine. If you love sports podcasts, BetOnline has that as well. It's the fastest and easiest way to get your betting info. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more. BetOnline.net is where the game starts. All right, everybody, finishing up this Christmas Eve edition of the Locked On Eagles podcast, your first listen each and every day. I'm your host, Gino Camilleri, as you know. So thank you for tuning in here. And for your second listen, make sure you tune in to the Locked On Sports Today podcast. Peter Bukowski brings you the biggest stories from around the sports world in 20 minutes. 20 minutes or less. Get the analysis and opinions before anyone else with our local and national experts and insiders. Locked On Sports Today, available on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. And we are finishing up talking about the highly anticipated matchup between the Philadelphia Eagles and the Dallas Cowboys by talking about what Vegas thinks. These fortune tellers of sorts, these people that nobody really knows who Vegas is and who is setting these lines, but they get made and they're pretty spot on a good majority of the time. BetOnline.net, the official sports book of the entire Locked On network, of course, and the Locked On Eagles podcast, has the lines. This is the most recent. As I'm recording this, these lines are live. The Philadelphia Eagles are 4-point dogs, and the over-under is 47 points. So what does that mean? Well, this game opened as the Eagles being a 1-point underdog. Then we got some news. Jalen Hurts was not going to be playing in this game. So what happened then? The line went up to almost 6 points. It went up to 5.5 in favor of the Cowboys. The Eagles were getting 5.5 points, which is crazy, frankly. Now it's down to 4. I would expect tomorrow that probably gets a little closer, maybe even to 3. Could this mean that the Eagles and the rest of Vegas favors this team that doesn't have their starting quarterback? It could. Because when money starts to come in late on a team that was a big-time underdog, people know something. I tell you, these people in Vegas are wizards. They know more than we know. You want to talk about it being scripted? It's the closest you can get to it being scripted, because the things that happen with Vegas and point totals and over and unders, it is bananas. So pay close attention, especially to this one, where there will be a lot of money on this game because everybody is going to be watching it. It's going to be close. It won't be a blowout either way. Even if Dallas does win this game, I don't think it's by as many points as somebody would think that Dak Prescott could put out over Gardner Minshew, because the line says otherwise. It's 4 points. If the Eagles were at home, the Eagles are only a 1-point dog with Gardner Minshew. Vegas knows something. Vegas believes the Eagles stand a chance in this game. Could it come down to a late field goal where the Eagles still cover and they lose? Yeah, it absolutely could. Could the Eagles win outright? Yeah, definitely so. And how do they do that? I would say that the Eagles and the over is the play. Take the Eagles with the 4 points. The over-under is 47. That means that the Eagles are probably going to have to win this game 24-23 for it to push. It would have to be 25-23 for it to go over. I predicted the other day with Marcus that it would be 34-28 in favor of the Cowboys. I'm going to stay right around there, but I'm going to say 31-28 in favor of the Eagles. Take the 4 points. Take them outright. Take the over. A lot of points are going to be scored in this game. The Cowboys can run the football. The Eagles can pass the ball. Can the Eagles' run defense be that good once again? Can the Cowboys' pass defense come back to earth? I don't think so. This is going to be a game. It's going to be high-flying, high-paced. There's going to be a lot of points, and people are going to enjoy this game when they're sitting around, enjoying the holidays, having fun with their family. And I hope that's what you do each and every day, because you should be hugging your loved ones, enjoying the time that you have with everybody around you, because you never know. Just enjoy the time that you have. Have fun this holiday. Thank you for tuning in here to the Locked On Eagles podcast. We appreciate every single one of you that come here each and every day to check us out. We do not take it lightly. Enjoy every single second you have with those that you love. Give some gifts, receive some gifts, eat some good food, have some good drink, watch some good football. And after the show tomorrow, we will be live talking about this game. Hopefully it will be to talk about the Philadelphia Eagles wrapping up the 1 seed in the NFC. And if not, nope, there's no if nots. The Eagles are going to win this game, and we're going to be chatting about it on Saturday, on Christmas Eve, the best present that anybody that supports this team could get. Thank you for making us our first listen each and every day here at the Locked On Eagles podcast. For your second, check out Locked On Sports Today. Check us out on Twitter at GC24_football for myself, at DiBiase LOE for my co-host, at Locked On Birds for the mothership. Check out all of the shows on the Locked On Podcast Network. Everybody in Philly, check out the Flyers Philly show as well. Make sure you check out the Sixers to cap it off for all the 4 Eagles sports. Make sure you are liking, following, subscribing anywhere where you get your shows: Odyssey, Spotify, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Amazon Music, Apple. You know where to get the podcast by now. Check us out on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe. Once again, subscribe, like, interact with us wherever you listen to the shows. As I said, please have a safe, enjoyable holiday. Take in all the love. Give even more love. We love you here at the Locked On Eagles podcast. Thank you for tuning in. We will see you tomorrow. Fly, Eagles, fly, as always.